And welcome to tonight's sermon. This is about the new year, the hopes for the new year, and the coming election in the United Kingdom. Are our politicians doing what the people want? Once again, we're asking that question. And it's also about Druidism, spiritualism, myths and politics, as usual from the Druid of the North. Sorry, pardon me, I should have muted that. Anyway, let's get on with the service. Let's get on to our first speaker. This is Joanna van der Hoven, and she's on now for the next 5 minutes.
In the darkest time of the year, I find myself searching for the light of the Mabon, the divine child. In the Welsh tales of the Mabinogi, the Mabon was stolen from his mother, the Modron, or Great Mother, when he was 3 days old. As part of a larger quest in the tale of Culhwch and Olwen, Arthur and his knights must search for the Mabon, for as he is reputed to be the greatest hunter in the lands, only he can aid them in their grander journey. The Mabon is the divine prisoner. The Mabon is us all. The separation from the Great Mother, from the divine feminine, has caused and continues to cause untold damage in our world. The reunification of mother and child, of masculine and feminine, of light and darkness can bring something truly special, not only to the world, but also to our very selves. For the tale of the Mabon and Modron is a tale that is within us all. It is within and without. To reconnect with the childhood wonder, the enchantment and joy. The natural world is full of wonder and joy. We only need to know where to look for it. In the tale, Arthur and his knights seek out the oldest animals, those sentinels of wisdom in the natural world. Through a tale of questing and of questions, they approach each animal, the blackbird of Kilguri, who led them to the stag of Red Nifra, who led them to the owl of Cumcoolid, who led them to the eagle of Gorn Abbey, and he led them to the salmon of Llyn Llw. We must turn to the natural world, and there we will find the wisdom that is needed to restore the balance, to reunite the sun with the mother, the masculine and the feminine, the darkness and the light. We must each become the Modron as well, the mother to that divine child. We must nurture and care for that child physically, emotionally, spiritually. We can find the divine child within if we come to look with the loving eyes of the Great Mother. With the winter solstice fast approaching, and the darkness settling in thick and fast, the light of the divine child and the tender, loving embrace of the Great Mother can help us see through the long winter months. For the tale is not complete if any single portion is left out. The Mabon must be sought in order for the larger story of the union of Cullaig and Olwen to occur. Each has their part to play in the unfolding of life, and each part affects the rest. My quest this winter has been to find the Mabon and bring him back to the Modron in my own soul. I must be both the mother and child, the masculine and the feminine, the darkness and the light. I must look for and embrace the union, not of opposites, but of complements. For that is where the true balance lies, between the darkness and the light, the days and the nights, the seasons and the cycles of the world. Blessings of the solstice season to you all.
White buffalo woman, I seek thy vision. White buffalo woman, I seek thy grace. White buffalo woman, I seek thy wisdom, white buffalo woman. I seek thy peace, fill me with thy vision, fill me with thy grace, fill me with thy wisdom, fill me with thy peace. White buffalo woman, I seek thy vision, white buffalo woman. I seek thy grace, white buffalo woman. I seek thy wisdom, white buffalo woman. I seek thy peace, fill me with thy vision, fill me with thy grace, fill me with thy wisdom, fill me with thy peace. White buffalo woman, I seek thy vision, white buffalo woman. I seek thy grace, white buffalo woman. I seek thy wisdom, white buffalo woman. I seek thy peace, fill me with thy vision, fill me with thy grace, fill me with thy wisdom, fill me with thy peace. White buffalo woman, I seek thy vision, white buffalo woman. I seek thy grace, white buffalo woman. I seek thy wisdom, white buffalo woman. I seek thy peace, fill me with thy vision, fill me with thy grace, fill me with thy wisdom, fill me with thy peace. White buffalo woman, I seek thy vision, white buffalo woman. I seek thy grace, white buffalo woman. I seek thy wisdom, white buffalo woman. I seek thy peace, fill me with thy vision, fill me with thy grace, fill me with thy wisdom, fill me with thy peace. White buffalo woman, I seek thy vision, white buffalo woman. I seek thy grace, white buffalo woman. I seek thy wisdom, white buffalo woman. I seek thy peace, fill me with thy vision, fill me with thy grace, fill me with thy wisdom, fill me with thy peace.
In the 5th century BC, the island of Great Britain was a mere rumour to the Mediterranean world. It was known to some as a trading hub for tin, but to others as unconfirmed hearsay. But fast forward 500 years, and the Roman Empire would firmly bring this island into the realm of certainty during their third and final invasion of the land that they called Britannia. During these invasions, the Romans would encounter dozens of different tribes all across the islands who all spoke a Celtic language that they thought seemed similar to Gaelic. And it's these tribes that I'd like to take a look at today. In these two videos, I want to map out the various Celtic tribes of Great Britain in the 1st century BC, prior to any sort of Roman interference, starting today with the tribes found in southern England and Wales. The first Brythonic tribe ever described in writing were a group of people called the Cantii, who were mentioned by Julius Caesar during his 2 expeditions to Britain in 55 and 54 BC. He tells us that they lived on the southeastern tip of Britannia, which he thought was shaped like a triangle, and that their culture and customs were very similar to the Gauls, the Celtic population that inhabited modern-day France. Because of this, Caesar also believed that the Cantii were the most civilized of all the Britons. How rude. figuring out exactly where the Cantii, or really any of these tribes lived, is going to be fairly difficult. The first description of the location of the tribes of Britain was done by a Greek scholar named Ptolemy in the 2nd century, and even then this was not precise. Fortunately for us, in southern and eastern Britain, we have a few artifacts that can help us in this effort. Coins. Some of the Britons used coins, and these coins are useful to us largely in 2 ways. If we are lucky, then the coin will be marked with the name of a tribe, allowing us to identify their producer easily. More commonly though, they only contain the name of a king, if anything at all. Sometimes we can connect these names to actual people mentioned in historical sources, again allowing us to identify their producer fairly easily, but most of the time we have to guess which tribe they belong to, based on the physical location of the coins. Let's use an example. In the southeastern tip of Great Britain, we can find quite a large collection of Celtic coins. Do any of them have the name of a tribe on them? No, so we can't identify them in that way. But do they contain the name of the king that produced them? Yes, 3 kings in fact, and while these kings aren't mentioned in any surviving sources, we can draw a rough boundary of the land that they might have ruled, based on the physical location of their coins. And thanks to the fact that Caesar and later Ptolemy both tell us that the people who inhabited this region are known as the Cantii, we can assume that these men were Cantii kings. Therefore, we can use the boundary of their kingdom as a rough guide for where the Cantii tribe might have lived. Interestingly, if you discount this single coin in eastern Sussex, then the hypothetical boundary of the Cantii roughly looks like the modern-day county of Kent, which also takes its name from this tribe. To the west of the Cantii, we have the Atrebates, and I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Culturally speaking, they were quite different from both the Gauls and their Gallic-influenced neighbours, with one massive exception though, their name, which they shared with a Gallic tribe just across the English Channel. This bizarre situation seems to have occurred during the Roman invasion of Gaul, which caused quite a few people to flee across the Channel and into Britain, and one of these people was a man named Commius, the former ruler of the Gallic Atrebates. Commius seems to have fled across the English Channel and assumed leadership over the Britons here, forming a new kingdom of the Atrebates. To his west, he would be joined by a large contingent of Belgic people, also likely fleeing Caesar's invasion, and to the east, we are told that he boarded a mysterious new polity known as the Regni. Commius likely took over an already existing Brythonic kingdom, and if we examine the coins found in this area, we can identify an old and wide-reaching group of them dating to about 75 BC, seemingly indicating what the original Brythonic kingdom would have looked like, although the original name of these people has unfortunately been lost to time. If we travel further west, we run into the Durotrigus, an apparently close-knit and closed-off confederacy of smaller hill forts centered around a larger power base here. Culturally speaking, the Durotrigus took very little influence from their neighbours, although they did maintain close connections via trade routes, sending pottery and salt in exchange for coins. Their coins tell us that they lived roughly around the modern-day county of Dorset, with a small Bosnia-style stretch of coast in the north, likely being bound by the Brue and Axe rivers. Further west still, past the River Axe, we have the Dumnonii. This tribe didn't actually use currency, but as they're the only tribe mentioned by Ptolemy as living in the area, we can assume that they occupied all of the lands west of the Durotrigus. It appears they had close cultural connections to the people living in modern-day Brittany, as their architecture in the form of cliff castles and souterrains are very similar, and this cultural link would persist, as in a few centuries' time there would be a migration of Celtic-speaking people from this region into Brittany, likely fleeing Irish raids, and it would be these people who would reintroduce the Celtic language to this area, which today is known as Breton, one of the 6 remaining Celtic languages. The Dumnonii also appear to have reformed into a kingdom of their own, following the Roman withdrawal of Britain, as in the 6th century AD, a monk named Gildas tells us of the wicked crimes committed by the king of Dumnonia. To the northwest, we have the Dobuni, who lived roughly around the modern-day county of Gloucestershire, although their coins do stretch all along the Wye and Severn rivers, indicating that they may have had strong trading links with the people living along these waterways. To their east, we have the Catualauni, the preeminent fighters, whose coins and culture are extremely similar to their neighbours, the Trinowantes, which means the very vigorous ones. These people were so similar in fact, that we actually cannot tell them apart. If Ptolemy didn't tell us that a different group of people were living here, then we would have no idea. The historian Barry Cunliffe believes that we can draw a rough boundary between these two peoples by using the coins of a king named Cunobelinus. This man was the king of the Catawalauni, and we are told that he greatly expanded his territory sometime around AD 30. And if we look at where we can find his coins and compare them to where we can find the other Catawalauni coins, then we can see that he must have exerted control over the area of the Cantii and this region of eastern England, ultimately telling us that perhaps the Catawalauni did not control this coastline before, and instead that it was the territory of the Trinowantes. To the north of these people, we have the Iceni, who were famous for being the home of Boudica, the Brythonic queen who led a rebellion against the Romans and burnt down the city of Colchester, two goals that I believe everyone in the UK aspires to achieve. And to their west, we have the Corialtaui, who were separated from the Iceni by the Wash and the Fens, a large tidal swamp that covered a huge area of eastern England that would only begin to be drained in the 17th century. The Corialtaui themselves were a bit of a trading powerhouse, exporting valuable iron, salt and agricultural products in exchange for high quality pottery from Gaul. The Corialtaui are the 8th and final Brythonic tribe that used coins, meaning that from here on out, the evidence we have for where these remaining tribes lived becomes a lot more speculative. As we move west, the Corialtaui coins begin to taper out, and Cunliffe believes that they may have had a boundary in the Trent Valley with their neighbour, the Cornouae, who we are told inhabited the areas around the Roman cities of Wirraconium and Dewa, modern-day Wroxeter and Chester, likely stretching up to the Mersey River. They also likely shared a western boundary with the Ordovicius tribe in Wales, although where that border was is hard to define. One clue might be found in 3 hill forts located here, which appear to have a blend of Cornouae and Ordovician features, possibly indicating that they were located on the border between the two tribes, and subsequently became a hub for cross-cultural contact, resulting in the blended features in the fort. The Ordovicius themselves are one of the 5 Celtic tribes that inhabited Wales, likely living in hill forts across the modern-day counties of Gwynedd and Powys, and they also likely inhabited the island of Ynys Môn, an apparent stronghold of the Druids, who were a group of religious leaders present all across Britain and Gaul. But Caesar, and many historians today, believe that they may have had their origins here in Britain, and possibly here on Anglesey. Just south of the Ordovicius, we have what Ptolemy calls the promontory of the Gangani, which is likely referring to the Llyn Peninsula. The Gangani were also named as a tribe somewhere in southwest Ireland, so what Ptolemy is potentially telling us is that by the 2nd century AD, the Irish Gangani may have established a colony in this part of Britain. This would not be all that unusual for the time, as Irish raids would soon begin to ramp up in this era, and following the Roman withdrawal from Britain, Irish colonisers would establish 1 or potentially 2 entire kingdoms in Wales. To the west of the Ordovicius, we have the Decaangli. We can't exactly discern where these people lived, but according to the Roman historian Tacitus, they were the tribe that was invaded by the Roman general Ostorius in 48 AD, meaning that they likely lived along the northern coast of Wales, between the Dee and Conwy rivers, and that they are the first people in Wales to ever be mentioned in recorded history. And to the south, we have the Silures, who seem to have lived between the Wye and Tawe rivers, and they were quite the thorn in the Roman side. In 47 and 48 AD, they invaded Roman Britain under the leadership of a man named Caractacus, who had formerly been the king of the Catawalauni tribe that I mentioned earlier, and only 4 years later, they would defeat the Roman 20th Legion, only being conquered themselves in AD 75, 2 decades later. And finally for Wales, we have the Demeter, inhabiting the modern-day counties of Ceredigion, Carmarthen and Pembrokeshire. This tribe was unusually decentralised. Rather than being, say, a few small forts centred on one large fort, they appear to have instead been a large collection of medium-sized forts, without any sort of central authority. And with that, we've covered all of the tribes found in southern Britain, from the coin-wielding, Gallic-influenced kings in the east to the Druidic strongholds on fortified hilltops in the west, and we've roughly mapped out what their borders would have looked like. This is southern Britain in around 100 BC. Prior to the Roman invasion of both Britain and Gaul. This is the clearest picture we can get of the islands that the Romans never knew, as their invasion of modern-day France would lead to irreversible changes of the British political landscape, causing countless amounts of history to be lost to time. Thank you for watching. If you'd like me to cover these tribes in more detail, feel free to leave a comment below, and join me next time for my video on the northern tribes of Britain.
I am the face within the leaves, I'm the voice within the trees. I am boy, I am man, the face of the changing land, and I have been your constant guide, from your caves on the mountainside. We have walked hand in hand. And everywhere that I have been, my passing turns the grey to green. The birds sing to the dawn, and the land has awoken. And oh, my lady lays with me, and our love weaves a tapestry, eternal threads unbroken. In all of nature that is reborn every spring, call of stag and cry of eagle. I am child of barleycorn, and I am the antlered crown and standing stone. I am the oats, the corn and grain, a bearded man with a crooked cane. Cut me down, I must die, for the land to be born again. But don't you cry and don't you grieve, for soon the wild hunt I will lead on the night of Samhain. Child of barleycorn, and I am the antlered crown and standing stone. The air is cold, the sky is grey. Where am I this winter's day? Bones of trees, fallen leaves, the time of the winter queen. But through the wind and snow and rain, know that a part of me remains. Holly stands evergreen. I am lover, I am father, I am horned god and king. I'm the life in all of nature that is reborn every spring. Call of stag and cry of eagle. I am child of barleycorn, and I am the
2,500 years ago, the island of Great Britain was a rumour. Merchants had claimed to have sailed here in search of tin, but the Greek historian Herodotus thought it was too fantastical to be included in his book. In AD 43, though, the Romans would conclusively prove that these islands were real, when they began their conquest of the land that they called Britannia. Here they would encounter the Britons, who spoke a Celtic language, Brythonic, and were divided across the island into several groups, traditionally known as tribes, and it's these tribes that I want to take a look at today. This video will focus on the north of Britain, with my other video focusing on the tribes to the south. And for the purposes of this video, the north is going to start right here. You might put the line lower, I would personally put it way higher, but people tend to disagree with that. The Greek scholar Ptolemy, during his description of Britain in his book Geography, paints a picture of a colossal tribe, stretching from sea to sea, which the Roman historian Tacitus noted was the most populous in all of Britain. These people were the Brigantes, deriving their name from the Brythonic Briganti. In Welsh today, this word survives as Braint, meaning prestigious, but back then it might not have strictly meant someone of high status. As the Pennine Mountains run right through the north of Britain, it's been theorized that Briganti referred to someone of high elevation instead, as Ptolemy tells us that this tribe resided in 9 Roman towns situated all around these hills and mountains, naming them as Epiacum, Vinovium, Caturactonium, Calatum, Isurium, Rigodunum, Olicana, Eberacum, and Camulodunum. A few of these names still survive. Caturactonium became Catraeth in Welsh and Catterick in English, while Eberacum became Evrog in Welsh, Evorig in Old English, Jorvik by the Vikings, and finally York today. The centre of government for this tribe is disputed. The Roman government seems to have placed their capital, or civitas, right here, Isurium Brigantum, or Aldbra today. However, excavations at the fort of Stanwick has provided us with evidence for, according to the historian Barry Cunliffe, one of the only centralised settlements in all of northern Britain. In addition, this site is at the junction of 2 important trade routes, and the amount of imported Roman wares here suggests that whoever controlled this fort was very wealthy and presumably powerful, meaning that perhaps this was the old capital. We are aware of only 3 named individuals who could have ruled from here. The queen, Cartimandua, her first husband, King Venutius, and her second husband, Vellucatus. Before we get on to what we know of their history, it's important to ask what they ruled. You would expect perhaps a single kingdom or tribe, but many historians disagree. There are several locations within the territory of the Brigantes that bear the names of other tribes, such as the Setantorium Harbour and the Gabrantiocorum Bay, both of which contain nouns for apparent groups of people, the Setantii and the Gabrantowices. From this, many historians have theorized that the Brigantes were a federation, but as the historian David Breeze points out, these names come to us from Ptolemy, who was describing a tribal government that had been conquered by the Romans. Who's to say that the Brigantes always ruled over these tribes? It's not impossible, but we don't have actual evidence for this. Regardless, either in command of a federation or as a single kingdom, Queen Cartimandua became friendly with the conquering Romans, who had arrived on her borders by AD 51, becoming a very useful buffer state, allowing the Romans to focus on conquering the difficult tribes in Wales, such as the Silures and the Odoweces. However, it is this very conquest of what is now known as Wales that would cause Queen Cartimandua to fall completely out of favour. Not with the Romans, though, but with her own people. The Brigantes had already faced internal disturbances, but when the charismatic anti-Roman war leader Caractacus had fled to them seeking shelter, Cartimandua turned him into the Roman Empire. A few years later, her husband Venutius, who had previously been loyal to Rome, divorced her and started a civil war, seemingly not needing to convince many people to join him. The Romans stepped in AD 57, but the civil war continued for another decade and a half, until by AD 70, Cartimandua had been rescued from the kingdom, and Venutius ruled alone. Until a new Roman governor finally stepped in and conquered the entire region by AD 74. This would bring the boundary of this empire up to what could be argued to be one of its final frontiers, as even though they would conquer more lands such as Mesopotamia and even a bit further into Scotland, eventually both of these territories would be abandoned. Meanwhile, this border, soon to be marked with Hadrian's Wall, would stand for a couple of hundred years. This region gives us a very rough estimate for the northern extent of the Brigantes tribe, although some have tried to be a bit more precise by examining shrines to the goddess Brigantia who was worshipped here. These shrines are prevalent along Hadrian's Wall, with one found a bit further north in Birrins in Scotland. However, these cannot reliably be used to estimate a boundary. As the historian Breeze points out, the fact that all of the northern shrines bar one are along Hadrian's Wall suggests that instead they were brought there by the army, perhaps by locally recruited Brigantes. It's also worth pointing out that all of the other shrines can be found concentrated in the south, with no shrines yet being discovered anywhere north of York apart from Hadrian's Wall, once again suggesting that they were brought here. We've examined the core of the Brigantes territory, so now let's take a look at their neighbours. To the east we have a very unusual tribe, the Parisii. Their name is identical to a tribe in Gaul, unsurprisingly found around what is now the city of Paris. But this goes further than just a coincidence. You see, the Parisii had a fascinating burial culture, where they would bury carts and vehicles with their dead, a practice that was also carried out by this tribe in Gaul, and sporadically across other parts of northern France. This suggests that there was close cultural contact between the Britons of this region and the Gauls of these regions, beginning, according to what we found so far, by about the 5th or 4th century BC. By the end of the Iron Age though, these cart burials had largely stopped, giving way to individual warrior burials. Ptolemy gives the Parisii only a single town, Petuaria, on the River Humber. But from archaeological records of these cart burials, we can estimate that the Parisii extended their territory right up to the Yorkshire moors, likely between where the Brigantian settlements stop and the North Sea begins. This additional stretch of coast to the north, also devoid of Brigantes towns, might be where this Gabrantuicorum Bay is located. However, keep in mind that we have no idea for certain, but this would account for this territory that is seemingly absent of both Brigantes and the Parisii. However, at some point this tribe seems to become one of those two coasts that the Brigantes famously stretched between. On the other side of this island, we have another stretch of land completely devoid of Brigantes settlements, the land to the west of the Pennines around Lancaster and Manchester, which might be home to that Setantiorum harbour that Ptolemy mentioned. The people of this harbour, the Setantii, and their local river, the Setea, have mystified historians for decades. Their location isn't specified, but Ptolemy tells us that they're on the western side of Britain, below a place called the Moricam Estuary. Moricam comes from the Brythonic Marocam, meaning the great winding or bending, which would be Marcam in modern Welsh, and this name survives today as Morecambe Bay. If we assume that these two bays are the same, then Ptolemy tells us that the Setantii's harbour is right below it, followed by another presumably notable estuary, and finally the river Setea. If we look on a map, we can see two pretty sizable estuaries below Morecambe Bay, the Ribble and the Mersey, and historians today generally agree that the Setea was very likely the Mersey River. This then also places the Setantiorum harbour somewhere above the Ribble, and the historian Andrew Breeze suggests that it was on the River Wyre near Blackpool today, although the Lune near Lancaster could also be a candidate. This places the Setantii right here, to the west of the Pennines, roughly between the Wyre and the Mersey. Unfortunately, we don't really know anything else about them, but their name might give us one final clue, because it's very weird and it doesn't seem to be Celtic. The historian Dr. Parson suggests that this name might be pre-Indo-European, however Breeze has a different idea. He suggests that the Setantii is a misspelling for the Metantii. Ptolemy spelt words wrong all the time, even of very famous people and locations. And Met is a Celtic word meaning to cut or harvest. It survives in Welsh today as Medel, a reaper, and Medi, the month of harvest, making the Metantii their reaping people. Breeze also suggests that this was a reference not to farmers, but to warriors, as medieval Welsh poetry frequently uses the terms Medi, Medal, Gwr Medal, and Medal Gallon to refer to powerful kings and soldiers, all of which mean reapers, making them the reapers of their enemies. The Setantii, however, seem to have eventually become subservient to their neighbours, the Brigantes, although as I said, we don't know when this happened. Finally, we come to another difficult tribe, the Carwetii. Ptolemy never mentions them, but there was a local government in Britain named after them, the Civitas Carwetiorum, created by AD 229, and based out of the Roman city of Lugualium, known later to the Welsh as Caer Ligualid, Llywelydd, and Caerleil by the English, becoming Carlisle today. Their territory seems to have spanned from Carlisle in the north to Middleton in the south, where a Roman milestone bearing their name was discovered, along with a few other inscriptions in what is now Penrith. The difficulty of this tribe is that date I mentioned. They were granted a separate government to the Brigantes, but this came very late, meaning that we don't know if they were conquered and haphazardly lumped in with their neighbouring tribe, or if the Brigantes had conquered them, sometime prior to the arrival of the Romans. Aside from the Carwetii, there are 3 other names associated with the northern Brigantes territory. The first comes from another Roman town, this time mentioned in the Ravenna Cosmography, a sort of travel book describing various locations in Britain, which provides us with the name Coria Lopocarium. The Coria in Britain were the government centres of the rural provinces, once again naming another tribe within the borders of the Brigantes, the Lopocares. This town was probably Corbridge in the Tyne Valley, which also hosts another inscription, the Curia Tectoverdorum, or the Senate of the Tectoverdi, although this was probably a mistake for another Coria, suggesting yet another unknown tribal government. Finally, we also have the now lost inscription dedicated to the Coria Nototai, somewhere in this area, of which even less is known. They all evidently had some sort of self-government in the rural regions of the Brigantes province, likely in or around the Tyne Valley, but what sort of independence they may have had prior to the Romans isn't known. As we've been moving north, our information has gotten more and more scarce, and once we move past Hadrian's Wall, it gets even worse, something that is clearly exemplified in Ptolemy's map of Britain. Do you notice what's wrong with it? Scotland, at precisely where Hadrian's Wall is, has been rotated 90 degrees to the right. As Bill Thayer notes in his online translation of Ptolemy's work, Scotland, or Caledonia as the Romans called it, was outside of the Roman Empire. There weren't any cartographers going around mapping coordinates. Instead, Ptolemy probably had to rely on information from sailors, and the number of people who braved or were even skilled enough to sail all the way around Scotland at this time were probably very few. That being said, the Romans did, briefly, control this region of modern-day Scotland and England, with a temporary border here at the Antonine Wall, giving us slightly more information on the 4 tribes that Ptolemy claimed lived here: the Watadini, the Selgoi, the Noantai, and the Damnonii. The Watadini supposedly lived on the south coast, which in reality was the east, and they're assigned the Roman fort of Bremenium by Ptolemy. Their capital, though, appears to have been the hill of Trypraean Law, owing to the huge amounts of Roman goods and silver here, suggesting that the controllers of this fort had a very beneficial relationship with their Roman neighbours, probably in turn defending them from raids from the northern British tribes. The Watadini would also seem to survive the Roman conquest of Britain, as medieval Welsh poetry referenced the kingdom of the Gwotodyn, later Gododin, in the same area, who, according to legend, sent soldiers down to North Wales to found the kingdom of Gwynedd, although this probably isn't true. They were bordered to the west by the Selgoi, who seem to have had their tribal centre on Eildon Hill, while Ptolemy assigns them 4 Roman forts, of which 2 have been theorised to be at Newstead and Ruber's Law. Both the Watadini and the Slagoi were fairly centralised compared to their western and northern neighbours, with a small number of large hill forts, rather than a large number of small hill forts in their territory. To the west we're told about 2 more tribes. The first are the Noantai, who have 2 peninsulas named after them, which appear to be around the area of Galloway, and then the Damnonii to their north. Very little is known about these tribes, although the Romans have provided us with a small handful of place names as clues. In any case, from AD 80 to 82, the Roman general Agricola marched his legions north into these tribes, tackling the more centralised east first. The Selgoi appear to have put up the most resistance, as the Romans built a large number of forts, including the main fort of the entire region, within their territory. Meanwhile, the Watadini appear to have been left relatively alone. Once the Nwanta in the south were finally conquered in AD 82, Agricola apparently looked over the sea to Ireland, estimating that it could be conquered by a single legion, although this never came to be. Finally, we look over Caledonia, northern Scotland, the land that was never conquered by the Roman Empire, although Agricola did find victories here, against a people that by the 8th century were being called Picts. Who exactly the Picts were is argued about, and when exactly they appeared is argued about even more. A long time ago they were thought to be the last remnants of the pre-Celtic people of Britain. However, today their remarkably Celtic language and the fact that no one mentions them until about the 3rd century has instead led to theories that their culture developed out of Brythonic, rather than preceding it. Perhaps, as Charles Edwards suggests, the fact that these tribes lay outside of the bounds of the Roman Empire may have caused a divergence between them and their linguistic relatives to the south. Beginning on the western coast, Ptolemy names the tribe of the Epidii as living along and above a peninsula bearing their name, likely this very notable peninsula in southern Argyll. He then names the Creonas to the north of them, and then the Carnonici above them. On the north coast we find the Cyrenii, and finally the Cornawii in Caithness. To the south he names the Lugi, and above them, to the west, we have the Smertai, where we can find a burial mound bearing their name, Carn Smerts. Finally, on this side of Loch Ness in the Great Glen Fault, we have the Decantai. An interesting fact about these western or Atlantic tribes is that they almost entirely lacked iron, instead using animal bones and bronze to fashion nails, combs and tools. Moving east, Ptolemy names a tribe known as the Wacomagi, to which 4 places are assigned: Banatia, Tamea, Penatacastra and Tuesis. The locations of these are debated, but Ptolemy's own coordinates would appear to place the Wacomagi across northeastern Scotland, straddling the Grampian Mountains. Historians generally consider this quite unlikely, and they tend to prefer to place them on one side or the other. Sir Ian Richmond placed them to the south, but Mann and Breeze placed them to the north on the coast, and we don't yet have enough information to know who, if anyone, is correct. In northeastern Scotland we have the Taizali, and finally, to the south we have the Wenniconis, who likely occupied the eastern lowlands. We very quickly breeze through all of those names, but that's because we have hardly anything to go off of, just Ptolemy's description. That being said, there is one final puzzle to solve: the Caledonii. You may have noticed that all of these tribes occupy some sort of coastland, because as I mentioned earlier, Ptolemy very likely had to rely on the accounts of sailors, who would obviously only encounter the coastal tribes. So who was living in this giant inland stretch of highlands? No other names are mentioned except for the Caledonii, who were told stretched from 2 estuaries, probably somewhere around the Great Glen Fault. We could assume that they were some lesser tribe occupying the hills to the south of Loch Ness, and indeed that was the opinion of Mann and Breeze, who theorised that the Caledonii had been pushed inland by the coastal tribes to the east, sinking into insignificance. This, however, has been vehemently refused by the historian G. Barrow, who notes 3 points. First, the Romans called this entire area Caledonia, the land of the Caledonii. The great forest that spanned central Scotland was, for centuries, known as the Caledonian Forest. And even the name for the Western Ocean, Dun Caledonius, contains the Caledonii name. The Romans also referred to individuals as the Caledonians, and some are very highly commemorated, such as Losio Weda, who was commemorated in Colchester. The name Caledonia even survives today, both as a noun but also in place names. These are hardly the symptoms of an insignificant group, they instead appear to be heavily associated with central Scotland, suggesting that maybe it was them who occupied this big empty space in the centre. Sailors on the coast wouldn't have encountered them apart from their 2 ports in the north and the west, hence why Ptolemy perhaps doesn't mention them very much. Between AD 83 and 84, the Romans, again under Agricola, pushed further into this region of Scotland, culminating at the Battle of Mons Graupius, likely somewhere on the Grampian Mountains, where we're told an army of 30,000 Caledonians, led by a man named Calgacus, were supposedly fought and defeated, but the conquest of Britain deserves its own video. This completes the very brief survey of the northern Celtic tribes of Britain prior to the Roman invasion. If you'd like to learn about the Celtic tribes to the south, then that video already exists and you can click it here. If you'd like me to cover any more of these tribes in more detail, feel free to leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.
It's the 26th of December 2021, Boxing Day. I'm going to go in for a shamanic journey, my Christmas shamanic journey, see how it goes. I'll probably upload this one to YouTube and Patreon, see how it goes. Here we go, I'm going to go in now. Going to stare into the candles for a bit, charge the guys. I've already charged the most of it up, I'm going to go in now in a wee couple of seconds. An order to the right with a disc, an order to the middle forming a cloud, like a cloud with dark scale to the side, an oblong cloud at an angle, turned into a face, looking to my left and then to my right, quick to my left, just darting to the left there. See a tunnel, see one of my spirit guides, see orders, forming faces I think, hard to see what they're forming. I'm seeing a lot of orders, a lot of clouds, all two different groups of clouds covering my vision. engulfed in Arwen. Pagan, forming the black scale now. An order forming in the middle of my vision. See an animal like a crocodile. An animal, a crocodile like a human crocodile, a human and a crocodile melded. There's a name for that type of artwork. I forgot it. You need to Google it. Anthropomorphic, is it? Not seeing anything now. I think I'll come out and go back in again. Three pillars, one pillar sitting all the way up, another two at the back again. They're like rugby goalposts. I don't know what this is meant to represent. Not seeing anything. There's another like a circle. The top of the scale wasn't a full circle, but there was like the bottom half of a circle. See an order in the middle. I need to charge it, lads. I've been in for 3 minutes, I don't really see nothing on. The first one was quite good, but the second one I never saw nothing. Let's see what I see got to show us this time. Pillars of light. One's turned into a sword, like that's a sword. It's Excalibur. This is for the government, this one. See an order in the middle with a circle, like an orange globe, with a circle around it. See a face. I don't know who that was, a god, I think that might have been Carnunus. Or a transcendent master, it was a transcendent master, I was just told it was a transcendent master. He darted down to my right. Not seen any of a face. Wow, what is a wolf? A werewolf? That was unbelievable. There's another big ant. Oh, look at the size of that keeper, that guardian, that's a guardian. Wow! Very intimidating. Massive. This is a message to the government. What the government have been doing, but I've been trying to blow whistles on. Sorry, I've touched the microphone there and opened my eyes. Damn. Sorry. Move that up there. That's still recording, that's still recording. I need to go back in again, I forgot where I was there. Seen a massive guardian. Two pillars. They're very small. This one was massive the last time it turned into the sword. These ones were small. There's the long one again, the big one. A rectangle, a long rectangle. There's another order. Don't know what that is. Engulfed in orders. Orange glow, an orange symbol engulfed in orders. There's a IC, there's an IC. There's the Banshee, I think that was the Banshee. I think some people in dire need have been helped. Some people have been given advice to. Not seeing anything now. These are all short ones. I used to get long ones, but they're all very short the past few months. I have to go out and come in again. I'll come out and go back in. I'm not going for long ones since I'm recording this, because I'm going for, it can be 10 minutes of silence before I see anything. We're going for long ones, but they're spectacular. I write the ones down. This is short ones we're doing, see what happens here. I'll charge the gland again. Wow, you see that light up there? There's a glow at the top. Like a tower, like a transmitting tower. There's another glow that disappeared and another glow appeared, another orb. We're rising upwards, rising to the top of our vision. Surrounded in orders. Turned into a face. Flipping to the left. Wow, there's a bird. You can see a bird slipping down. That's spectacular. Shamanic bird just slipped down and smoked an aura bird, a bird in aura shape. Auras in a bird shape rather than flabbergasted by that still. It's hard to explain what I see in words. You can see a bottle turned into a body, a t-shirt at the top of her chest, like her chest. See the bird again, swooping down to my right now. Another order there, another animal. There's a deer, I can see a deer. I can actually see a deer. This is amazing. Someone watching me. You can see an ice stream, transcended master watching me. Can't see anything now. Black scale. Darkness, deep dark in the middle and a lighter dark around it with orders. Just seeing orders. Oh, I'm entering a tunnel. Tunnel's twisting around as I walk through it. As I traverse through it. I'm not actually walking, I'm floating through it. Seen an animal there, I don't know what it was, at the edge of the tunnel. The end of the tunnel. There's an ice sheet turned up. Something appeared in the middle, I couldn't quite make it out. Can't see anything now. Well, there's a bird swooping down. Come swooping down at me now. Might receive a message from Mother. Mother Goddess. Or our priestesses. That'll be our priestesses that was just highlighted there. See, I see. Snowman, a giant snowman. Looking to the left. I see transcended master looking upwards, looking to the left and looking up. There's a rabbit. See a rabbit following him. That person that's obsessed with what's staring into the clouds is going into the animal kingdom. That's what that message is. That's what one of the people I've been giving advice to. After they get reborn, they're getting into the animal kingdom. They're a bad soul. I won't say who it is. Did you get that? I just want to go to the government. Hopefully Boris will see this. Not seeing anything now. Just orders. There's something in the order. Mushroom, I can say it was a mushroom. Oh, I see orders floating towards me now. After seeing that mushroom. I think my spirit guide wants me to take some psilocybin. See a face staring right at me, and I can see a cat. That's a message for myself. I need to get off this path I'm on a dangerous path. All this smoking I'm doing, it's affecting my lungs. I'm smoking way too much. My spirit guide already warned me about it, my lungs. I've not been heeding her advice. So I've got to do that now. I've got to chuck smoking, calm it right down. Just weekends only. Seen orders. See a chest. I think that was a chest. That's your spirit guide confirming what I just said. She was already warned me about my. Yes, I seen a hand there and that symbol. That's my spirit guide agreed with me after she chucked smoking. Can take care of my body. I'm abusing it just now. I wonder if that's still recording. I don't want to open my eyes just now. See an aura in the middle. An aura's at the top. They might form some shape. They're floating around. There's another. That's from that video. That's the purging scene from that video. The ayahuasca video I've got. Your spirit guides see everything you see throughout your whole life. They've got your whole life knowledge, your whole lore in their heads, and it's all encoded in the Akashic field. That's 15 minutes. I think I'll come out and end this one. That was a short one.
Facing the west to a distant land, gazing over the sea, standing on Cornwall's rocky shore, the crashing waves far below me. I heard a woman calling my name, her voice, the voice of a friend. She said, now hear me, I'm Morgan Le Fay. Let me tell you a story with no end. The life of a man, the life of a king, the love for a queen. Pendragon of Britain, sovereign of the land, the mightiest warrior ever seen. The magic sword in his hand, like lightning cut through the air. A gift of the goddess, lady of the lake, to valiant Arthur the Bear. In the heart of Dumnonia stands a town, an isle on a sea of glass, where Merlin planned the old gods of the land would return to Britain at last. 12 of the 13 treasures were there, Clivno-Ivan's cauldron the quest. On foot when they sailed into the other world, number 7 returned from the west. Na 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 Facing the west to a distant land, gazing over the sea, standing on Cornwall's rocky shore, crashing waves far below me, I see a ship disappear in the mist that shines like silver and bronze, carrying the body of the wounded king to be healed in Avalon. Na 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 na
And welcome to the sermon part of the service. Now, I'd like to talk about the hopes for the new year. And my hope for the new year is that more people start worshipping the old gods. The old gods, the mother goddess, the father god Cernunnos, and the race of gods that reside in the other world. My hope is that more people start trying to find out more about the old gods, start praying to the old gods, researching the old gods, and listening to the Druid lore masters of the earth. You can find them on YouTube. You'll find lots of videos on YouTube about Druidism, about the old Celtic gods. You'll also find many a book on this subject. It's been writing books since the 1900s on Druidism, and their modern Druidism is quite good. There are quite a lot of good informative books about Druidry out there. I encourage you to buy some and read them, even if you could get them from the library and rent them out, borrow them. It'll be good for your soul and good for your brain. Good to keep on learning. We're here in the mortal realm to learn, to keep on learning until the day we die. then we get judged for our life story. Now that brings us to the Aishi. The Aishi are priestesses, sentinels, judges, lawmasters and builders, and pilots and staff. All sorts of different roles are taken up by the Aishi. They're just like us in the mortal realm, except they have power and they all have empathy and they're all filled with love and fun. If you have a shamanic journey on DMT or ayahuasca, you will find out how playful and fun and loving the Aishi are. They're souls that have made it past the immortal judge and have been welcomed into Mother's kingdom. What type of soul does that take? I think we can all know. The question is, can we all strive to emulate those types of people that become Aishi when they die? I think a lot of us can make it, but we have to have epiphanies about suffering, about what is suffering, who suffers, sentient beings. All sentient beings are just some. It is wrong to cause suffering on any sentient being. So we have to have epiphanies to figure out the path we need to take to transcend to Tardanog, the other world, heaven. Now our spirit guides are Aishi, and they lead visions, and within those visions you will see auras and tunnels, and they're all gifts from the Mother Goddess. The plants that we take to shamanic journey on are gifts from the Goddess, and we must encourage the growth and cultivation of these plants, these entheogenic plants. If we lose them, we lose touch with the Mother Goddess, and that would be a travesty, and that's what the cult are trying to do. They're trying to keep all people from shamanic journeying, when we can all take these plants and shamanic journey, and that's what the gods want, the earthlings in communication with the Aishi, so we can live a better life, a life fulfilled with joy and no suffering, at least a minimal amount of suffering. Otherwise you go to the underworld. That's where our politicians are going. They're not doing what the people want. You see it all the time. We're forced to protest, to take to the streets, and the politicians keep ignoring us because there's not a majority taking to the streets to scare those politicians like we did in the poll tax, when that unpopular tax was ripped from the law books by the people's protest. They fear us taking their wealth and their power away from them, so they don't want us protesting in every city with hundreds of thousands of people taking to the streets in every city all over Britain. That would terrify those politicians. That's what we need to do when it comes to the vision implant and depopulate. We must protest in mass numbers to emphasize to our political leaders they are not our masters and we are not their slaves. We are independent human beings, sentient beings of the Mother Goddess with God-given rights at birth, and one of them is privacy. No vision implant in a human being's brain, unless they're blind, in which case you can hardwire out the brain into a camera, on sunglasses, on glasses. You've all seen it. They got the vision implant. They could cure the blind. You can download into it. Snowden proved in his leak. Well, they haven't cured the blind, so we can only realise and make our minds up to this fact that if the vision implant is not being used to cure people, then they must have nefarious reasons for doing so, and that's depopulate and implant, mass slavery, and the end of privacy. That brings us to what our politicians are doing. Try to enslave us all and take all our wealth away and give it to our friends and colleagues and family. It's not on, not in Britain, not in Albion, and it's not being done in the people's name. So it's time we force the politicians to stop doing laws and saying things on the world stage that do not agree with the majority viewpoint of the British people. Now, the spirit guides teach us how to transcend and help us out in life. That's what some of the IC do. They're the pathfinders for us. They've lived that life. They've already made it. They've lived a life on earth, died, transcended, and now they live with the gods, helping the gods to run the cosmos, and they've been rewarded with eternal life. The same personality for life. When you're reborn, you get a new personality, a new body. I like my personality. I want to keep it for all time. So I must minimise my suffering and try and transcend. And that's what I intend to do. I'm a vegetarian now, to minimise my suffering even more. Now, the importance of the true community of humans, that is the spirit of friendship, the friendly human race, where we do not turn the other cheek. We offer the hand of friendship, and if it's not accepted, if instead we are insulted with slurs and insults and attacks, then we defend ourselves. That's what the Celts have always done. We're a warlike people. War is wrong, unless it's sanctified by the gods, and that rarely happens. Only war that's justified now is the war of the apocalypse, where the people fight the establishment to stop depopulate and implant from happening. We can do it peacefully if we act soon, but if we don't act soon, it will come to a breaking point where if we don't use force, we're all dead, doomed. It's important that we wake up to this. We're running out of time, and the other side are not sitting idly. They're actually putting their plans in place to enslave us all. Got to keep an eye on the news, and the wee snippets of information you get that leak out from the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Commission, Chatham House, and the United Nations. They don't represent the viewpoint of the people. They only represent the viewpoint of the corporations and the bankers. It's a planet run for corporate capitalism, not socialism for the people, but capitalism for the corporations and shareholders. In Britain's case, most of them are Norman. So what do we do about it? There's an election coming up in the United Kingdom next year, so we can put our views forward then. But who do we vote for? We haven't got much of a choice, and the political party I want to vote for hasn't been formed yet. The lottery government. I need money to do it, if no one else does it. Hopefully I can inspire someone to start the party, to install a lottery government on the people of Britain, so we can inspire the whole world to adopt our system of government. I think I'll call it quits there. That's an hour and 19. I've run out of things to say again. I didn't take many notes this time. I rushed into this one. This time of the year, Christmas and New Year, I'm kind of rushed off my feet. So we'll call it quits now. That's a good long time, over an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you for tuning in to me, and I hope you have a happy New Year. Good luck, and blessed be, my friends.
I woke upon your dragon lines, a power from below. I can't explain the reason, but it's a calling that I know. I feel you as you lead me on the paths of your veins, across your mighty mountains, your rivers and open plains. Your rivers and open plains. I ride upon the eastern breeze, the power of the air. My thoughts soar high where the red kite flies, its spirit takes me there. I spread my wings, circle round the sun. I look down on the dragon lines where the kite and the dragons won. The kite and the dragons won. My silent friends, the spirits of the trees, they gently guide me deeper to the doorway that you leave. My roots reach deep to the earth down below, where I journey on the dragon lines to a place that I know, to a place that I know. Dragon lines to a place that I know, to a place that